Call this regular meeting of the Vergennes City Council to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome, everyone. I don't believe we have any scheduled visitors. However, I do want to make 3 corrections to the agenda before we proceed. And under business, item B, contract negotiation results, ending with the HAS should read HRA. Then item E, I would like to change that to read recommendation for appointment of City Manager Hofman to Health Officer. We do not actually appoint, we make a recommendation. And under City Manager's report, please, item B should read biosolids removal from wastewater treatment plant.
That's good.
Okay?
That's better.
It is much better. Thank you.
Thought we were making our water treatment plant really dirty.
Well, exactly, exactly. So that is taken care of. Okay? All right, let's move on to the minutes and warrant. Did anyone have any question on, oh, we have not circulated the warrants for signature. You have them here. Does anyone have any questions on the warrants?
The warrants are actually last month's warrants and this month's warrants because last month wasn't.
Do we have multiple signature points? Or
No,
here?
just what they're all on one.
Great, thank you.
Accumulated.
No questions? Moving on to the minutes, do I have a motion?
I'll make approve. Second?
Motion made and seconded. Did anyone have any corrections?
I'm sorry, I didn't get who motioned or.
Mark Lowell.
Second.
I didn't have any since I was not here. Hearing no changes to those. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's both sets.
That is both sets, correct. Do any of our citizens here have any comments they'd like to make to any items that might not be on the agenda? Thanks. Sure, go ahead.
So these are the unscheduled parts. Does this usually come at the end of the meeting? Or?
Well, it did, but we started doing that, and then this is Daniel's first agenda, and I forgot to mention to him that we should swing it around. So we'll do it right now.
Certainly. Well, Mr. Mayor and all gathered, thanks very much. 3, I guess, public service announcements. So the first one, maybe they'll put the challenging one first. Been viewing a lot of the meetings and been participating, I suppose, to some degree, a lot over the last year. So I guess I wanted to start by offering my services. I'll run, stand for election to alderperson or deputy mayor, whatever is available this year, should citizens be interested. So I'm currently serving the community in various paid capacities as a substitute teacher, a custodian at the public schools. I work in the restaurants. I run a small gardening business also. I hopefully, like, thousands of people know me already around here. Yeah, I guess I just would run on the platform of actually doing the work. And if anyone's interested, just contact me individually. You can circulate a petition with or without my prior knowledge, and those of us joining on YouTube or the television set are also welcome to the same. My comments to you all would be, I encourage you, I guess, I'll phrase it as an encouragement at first, to serve us by being very active in your discussion here. So one thing I pointed out to the former city manager was that one of the reasons that democracy works well is not because we have experts or even groups of experts who put together the work products of public service in this case. So in fact, social science shows that a higher quality work product comes from a diverse working group. So that means, in my opinion, that active discussion with different viewpoints in this room and elsewhere will actually lead us to the right measures of public service. And so to that end, I want to encourage you to do your work and then to come here sort of with finished work products. reviewed the city manager job description that was published, and I was quite astonished, frankly, at how much of the activity of the city is put on to the one sort of paid professional, and I would encourage us to sort of take up more work amongst each other. I guess for now, that's all I will say, except that if any of you has projects that would benefit from additional research and you find yourself a normal busy person, then reach out to me and I can help you do some research. Okay, I offered at least one time to, for example, assist to research the health insurance question, which had prompted me to speak up so much because I was very displeased, frankly, with how that discussion went on last year in this room. And nobody sort of came to me and said, oh yeah, let's go look at this together, okay, and do some work on it. So if you find yourselves too busy running your lives and your families and your businesses and everything else, I totally understand that, and maybe as a first step of cooperation, let me know if I can assist you. Okay, so the second item of public service is just I've had two very pleasant experiences donating blood, and again, this is also for all of us who are joining the meeting virtually. So I encourage everybody who can donate blood to go to one of the Red Cross blood drives. It's been quite an emergency need for months now, and only about 5% of eligible blood donors actually donate. So it's a clean process. They're very great volunteers, and anyone who can donate blood is encouraged to do so. That means basically that we would start to work our way out of the emergency situation if every eligible blood donor just donated once a year. So that's about 2 or 3 hours. And then finally, I couldn't get this in on December because I guess there was a lot of discussion at the meeting I tried to present at about the city charter revision. But I wanted to call attention to a local business. There was Spotlight Vermont had opened up in our Vergennes Opera House here where we are today. And so Alyssa Van Dyne was a former Broadway performer, and she was the teacher that Spotlight Vermont brought in to teach. And as you can hear, there are lots and lots of children having a great time learning performing arts. It was, I think, 6 or 7 classes, and so more than 60 people received performing arts training. And then we had a sold-out first recital. So it was just very exciting, and I encourage your attention. I know that the arts are quite alive in Vermont, and definitely in Vergennes with the Opera House. So anything that would just put that on the radar for potential future praise. I think they did a smash home run job, their first rip opening up in business here. So that's all I have. I'll yield to questions or to the business of the city. Thank you. You too, thanks.
Anyone else? Bob, did you have something?
Yeah, I guess I did. I spent a lot of years going to a lot of meetings and serving on a lot of committees. And the common thread that went through all of my efforts was that there were reasons and purposes for the committee to exist. There's a reason for this committee to exist. It's called Managing the City. Looking at your agenda, I see the mayor's report and the city manager's report. Any committee I had ever been involved in had subcommittees, and each individual had a task to perform toward the collective goal of the committee. And to that end, the individuals were responsible for issuing progress reports. Where are you? Versus where we need to be. Where are the metrics to measure progress or lack thereof? And to basically use to evaluate the individual's suitability for that particular function. On a committee, if you're not doing your job, if you don't have the time to devote to it or the resources to apply to doing the job properly, then you petition your chair for some kind of relief. That's the only way to do it, the only way to move it forward. Otherwise, you become an anchor for the rest of the group. Like I said, the agenda contains a mayor's report and a city manager's report, which is great. Step number 1. But the question is, what do the other members of this committee do to add to the common purpose of the city council? And where are the reports for what they accomplish? Monthly report. Doesn't have to be extensive, doesn't even have to be written. Should be documented somewhere. That'll document it if you want. Should be written, legitimately. It should be filed somewhere as part of the meeting. Each member should provide a report as to where they are in their individual tasks for the betterment of the city. I yield back.
Thank you. I actually agree with you, Bob, about establishing committees. It's not something this body has really taken on with a whole lot of gusto in the past. It doesn't mean that we can't, and we certainly have started forming some committees. We've had hiring committees that we've not had in the past. We also have a committee now that is looking at the transition as our city clerk leaves. So we have dipped our toes into the water, but I appreciate your comments, and they are all very valid.
There's two key drivers that have become very, very prominent of late. Accountability, transparency. You want to cover your 6, document what you're doing. And I can't think of a better way to do both. Support your common goal by documenting it, and support your individual existence on this committee by documenting it.
Thank you.
I'll respond to one thing. I'm on 2 committees, the Opera House and Recreation, and both of those minutes are posted all the time on the website, so you can see them. It takes about, I don't know, she posts them very quickly. Does she send them to you and then on the website?
She posts them.
Yeah, she
herself.
posts them. So
Yeah.
you should be able to find all of that right on the website if you go.
Case in point, one member, second member, third member, who actually documents the activities. Different committee. as
Well,
opposed to-
I'm appointed from this group.
Okay, so you're acting as
Yeah,
the
I'm-
city council or the
Right.
deputy mayor.
That's correct.
That's fine, so you're actually covering 2 roles.
Yes.
And that-
There are, Jeff has appointed some of us to different committees along the way, and all the minutes should be public. I don't know what other ones are active right now, but
David's on the Basin Committee, and those minutes are regularly posted.
yeah, so I think you just need to go to the website, and most of us are on some committee that's been posted.
So there is some, with a little bit of visibility, we'd know where to go get these
That's correct.
progress reports, so we could see what was happening. And there may or may not be metrics there, but that's step number 2.
Right.
But at least we would see the progress.
The council adopted a number of goals at the beginning of our tenure here, all of us, last March, and we will be revisiting those again this coming March. And one of them is to look at how we might improve our website. And that improving our website will help address some of the issues that folks have getting that information, because it is there, it isn't always easy to get to.
Visibility, accountability that's the key.
We just have to figure out where the money is to make it happen. So that is one of our goals.
Step 3.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
I yield back, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other comments? All right, moving forward to business. Item A is a city charter adoption update. I'm wondering if Alderman Koenig might want to sort of bring us up to speed.
This is how I've wasted my time for the last year.
Yeah.
It's not a waste.
Committee of me. We had the informational meeting a few weeks back. I took the various comments that came forward, put them all together. They got transferred over to Jim Ouellette for review. About 2 days later, he got them back to me about a week ago. He had roughly a half dozen issues, mostly wordsmithing, like, I don't understand this paragraph, what you're trying to do, and can we change it around? Those got all, I met with him, and Daniel was there as well, Friday?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Friday.
Went through all the language changes, he was fine with that. Jim's big problem is paragraph 1, the boundaries. And he really doesn't think we should go forward until those are set. And whereas I was thinking we could just use the old language and then in a year, once it's settled, we can revisit it. His concern is that if we put forward the old language again, which we don't agree with, then we are saying this is the boundary, and it's going to be harder to change. Jim is now on the other side of the country. Mel thinks that there's some legal ways to show that we already have the boundaries. Jim's found a Supreme Court case from the 60s that says it really has to go to the legislature for them to officially state what the boundaries are, because that's their decisions. So we'll figure out how to do it and then work with our surrounding communities and surveys and figure out if it's amenable or it's going to be contentious, but at some point the legislature will then have to do it. So all that said, none of that is going to happen before the end of the month. This charter will not be on town meeting day. But that gives us more time. Daniel is new to the spot. He gets a chance to read through it and see what changes or amendments or edits he would like to maybe have go into it. We can have more workshops with other people kind of talking through things. And maybe we can get it out next town meeting. Because it still has to go, well,
Could it be done?
we
on
could do it in
election?
November possibly if we were to do it, but I mean, I have a feeling this survey issue is not going to be a couple months. But it does, I mean, it's not too bad because this is something that had to happen anyways. If we're going to have the corridor, we need to know our boundaries and they have to be absolutely set. And so the charter's been waiting for decades to be changed. Another year or two is not going to make too much of a difference, and most of the hard labor has been done.
What about the local? I mean, but I guess that also puts us to the local option tax of that.
That would
We
have to be
decided
pushed.
that cannot happen without the charter change. That's correct.
Correct.
Well, it could be its own thing, and then we added, so if we wanted to just try and put a local option tax
As an
change
amendment?
to the current charter, just a one thing, that's possible. We can just add that to the current charter. That could go through the process right
That
now
would
and
have
be
to be
done.
voted on and approved in the legislature, but just
And then
that
voted
one,
again.
that one addition.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
then we're gonna come to the legislature again with a completely revised charter.
A year or two,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it could be a totally different biennium.
Yeah,
Could be different.
It will be. I mean, this is their second term through, so
Yeah.
it'll be
Right.
different
So that
for people.
still affects the location of the pins around around the property lines. I mean, are we saying if we just add that's we're agreeing to that?
Oh, because they
Geography?
the current.
Yeah, I mean, if we're,
Yeah.
I think we've modified the current charter before. I don't know.
I don't know, I'm just asking a
I think it
question.
probably makes sense to just wait. It's not something we desperately, it's not like we're hanging our hat on $200,000 for next year's budget. So.
right. I think it makes a whole lot of sense to do it right and to take our time. So is it reasonable that we can have a plan to talk about it at our next meeting, sort of a timeline?
I think we should still have the first public hearing that we have planned because people have already been editing and revising. We can still talk about it, knowing that it's not going to go anything past that. We don't need to have the second one on the 28th then because we're not
Right.
under a timeline. But since people are already putting some effort into their revisions, there's no harm in having that.
Well, we might be surprised, and maybe there's a way to have that boundary
Maybe.
decision made before November or October. It is, 9 months away, 10 months away, so let's see if we can figure out what the options are.
Yep.
So let's plan to bring a plan to the next meeting.
Yep.
Any questions for Mark? We keep
Thank you.
looking
Thank
at it.
you
Thank
for
you
your
for all
work.
your work. Next item, contract negotiation results. Daniel, do you have an update for us?
When I came on, we started an agreement with the police. Part of the agreement was different, like fringe benefits, different pay types. So it took the first payroll. Abby and I, we worked together to try to get things straight as far as how to have a accurate timesheet that, you know, the police made a timesheet that works for them, that depicts it delineates different their new pay types. However, when you bring that back to the office and try to input it into the payroll system, it was a different story. So I kind of went back and forth with the police and got a timesheet that works for all of us. So that's going all smooth, and we reached out to the retirement organization, Vermont Retirement, because part of their agreement was that they could go up to the next step in the retirement plan, and we're finalizing that. And other than that, things are going smooth. Yeah.
And is there an update on the health insurance?
Well, their health insurance, they went down to the gold plan from the premium plan, and that's where it stands really right now.
And they have no other option?
I mean, they could pay up to get to the premium plan.
Okay.
On an individual basis.
Yes.
Did they have to do that before the end of January, or end of the year? How would they do it now if they wanted to?
They could. We could work with them on an individual basis because it's being changed right now. But as far as like they would have to wait for open enrollment otherwise if they wait too long.
Right.
But they know that they have that option to pay up to the premium plan.
And do you know how much that's costing them?
It's I think $400 a month.
Extra?
I believe so.
Family plan, probably.
So how does that affect the HRS or A?
The HRA.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it does. I'm not sure if it does affect the HRA.
Yeah, the HRA applies to all employees, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that specifically shouldn't be impacted.
No, it won't be.
Right.
Okay, because I thought it was a reimbursement plan, right?
Right.
It is, they have a lower tiered plan, so they'll use their HRA card more than they would have used it if they had stayed on the platinum plan, because their deductibles are higher.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So does our contribution to the HRA change in any way because they chose to go down in their?
Yep, it will impact us because they'll need to use it more, where otherwise they're generally healthy, they're all young. We have such a good plan, the copay is like $40 or $30. They'd use their HRA. Well, the plan they're on now, their deductible can be like $120, and they'll use the same HRA card. So they otherwise would not have charged $120. They would have just charged the $30 or $40.
So that I
we may
understand.
see-
Yeah, so I understand this. Is there a limit to what's in each of
Yes,
the? Okay, how
everyone's
much is
capped
that?
at 5,000.
So every employee will get 5,000.
Up to, and whatever they don't use, the city keeps. So if they don't have a need to use it, that's where the city save money on buying the better plan, is because they didn't have to pay deductibles.
So it's unlikely that the Matt's comment that we'll save $4,300 or whatever it was, that is likely not going to happen. Is that correct or not?
Overall, I'm not sure. That's what him and Abby worked on, but they did make a notation that they would be using their HRA cards more. That was in his memo. I saw that. So he was aware that the potential is there for those cards to be used more, but you don't know how much more. We have no experience with it, with this plan they're on.
And will we get a report of that every month?
Yeah, you can, if you want to know
we can
what
make
the
something.
I think we
HRA,
need, yeah, I think
because
we
we
need to
have a
watch
separate
that.
account
Yeah.
for the HRA
Yeah, okay.
account.
I'd like to keep that on.
Just to Yep,
Okay,
okay.
I'll
we
keep
can
an
do
eye on
that.
Yeah, I think that would be good to have, so we can,
Well, just so y'all understand it a little more.
You want
know.
to see that monthly?
well, whenever, whatever, I don't
that
know,
it's
do they
necessary.
take it out monthly? I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, every
so-
month.
All right, then,
They
yeah.
charge us fees to administer the HRA account and any usage. Some months it can be like $1,100. Some months it's $5,700 because it also covers dental, eyeglass, and
Yeah, I think
whatever.
we need to know that.
Yeah. I can give you a spreadsheet like last year's, what we did for the whole year and where we're at. Last year to this year, we just ended December.
Well, the other thing that needs to be balanced, though, it's not just how much the HR is, but how much the difference is in the premiums between gold and platinum.
Right.
So the delta needs to, you can't just say, well, look, now we're using
How much
HRA,
more
so much
are we
more,
spending?
it's a worse plan. Well, not if we're paying a lot less in
Yeah, we're doing
premiums.
Premiums.
And how much
therefore,
less are we paying?
there's
I'm not sure with this new policy they have.
At
I
least
don't
now
know
for the
that we've
teachers,
even
it's a
gotten a bill
significant
yet
amount.
for the new
is,
policy.
The insurance companies have such a large database that if you ran those numbers, they probably are gonna be pretty close either way between the
Yeah.
total expense.
Yeah, they're
But we'll just do
They're
that
working.
exercise so we feel better.
I can analyze it over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months. I can watch it.
My question basically is trying to get at the point where we're rethinking what we're gonna do for health insurance. And before you think, well, this is a better plan to go down to a gold, is it really? That's, I think we have to look at that, and I didn't realize how that impacted until the police got involved in all this. So I think that's something we need to understand before we, automatically say we need to change our health plan. Because that may not be the best thing.
At that point, though, it's the police that asked for the gold.
I'm not
Okay.
asking that. I'm saying it impacts what we're going to do with health
might.
plans in the future. It's,
Yeah. Like if you want to shift down,
right.
you might want to look at the two. to
Exactly,
make
that's
sure
what I'm
you're
saying, and I
saving
wouldn't
by
have
shifting
even
down.
realized all this was coming unless the police had changed theirs.
Yeah.
I think another thing that we ought to do is possibly get some of the folks that we send to Montpelier in here to communicate some of the concerns that we may have relative to insurance in general. Because when you look at it, whether it's our budget or the state budget or the school budget, that's a significant driver that's increasing costs that we have virtually no control over, and that's never a good position to be in. And
It's not virtually, we have no control.
understood. I was being,
Yeah, don't
I
even
was
have to
being
cut it, though.
kind.
I
But,
had this argument last night in school board.
But I think that, we need to put some pressure on Montpelier to do something because the status quo does not work. It doesn't work for the folks that we're insuring, and it doesn't work for us as a legislative body, and it certainly doesn't work for the taxpayers. So some way, currently we have the worst of all worlds relative to how we treat insurance, and it's got to get fixed, and let's get those
Bernie will
folks in
fix
here.
it.
We'll see.
Well, and as a side note, so for the schools, there was just a negotiation statewide for teacher and staff insurance. Now it's handled as one lump sum. When it went to the arbitrator at the end of, or middle of December, came down, the way that they did this was giant warning. Either you guys figure it out amongst yourselves during negotiation, or you give the employees give their best and final, the employers give their best and final, and the arbitrator got to pick one. Couldn't mix and match, couldn't pick what was good, just had to pick one of them, and pick the employees. So they now have first dollar HRA, which changes a lot of things. So we had somewhere between 13.9 and 15.2% increase in healthcare for this past year. And because we now have first dollar HRA, the health insurance company is going back to ask for an increase on their increase because it's going to be used more. So we're probably going to go up another 2 or 3%.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
May I make a comment to that? So, I think we live in the best of all possible worlds. This is a free society, and we live in a society perhaps which there's a culture of individual empowerment in America perhaps greater than any other country. Right? So among the other alternatives before us is to go into the business of insurance. I mean, I'm serious. If you have a desire to provide insurance at a better rate, one of the things that's an option before us is to cooperate together, go into the business, and offer a better alternative. The work, the size of the work may be that big. There may be no smaller work to be done. There may be no other delegation or easier path. The path of least resistance may to be going into the business of health insurance. Okay. So this is what I mean. I mean, I literally will help you if you want to start, a new insurance option in this city, in this county, in this state. It will happen. If there's always been a way where there's been a will. Okay. And the same thing is true just since I offered my services to the public in so many other areas. Okay. If you find housing unaffordable, I will work with you to cost out, how much would it cost to build a new affordable housing complex? Okay. So the same thing, I reiterate that here. Okay. There are also other options. As a private citizen, frequently, almost every week, I offer myself, hey, I'll go work out with you. Okay. Like, let's go work out together. You want to talk about nutrition? I can do that. Personally, I eat a lot of baby food. Because if you look at the nutrition information, it's highly nutritious with very few calories, right? But I don't get a lot of people individually who are like all excited about this, okay? So, you have this option as a group, okay, to avoid the danger of what is known and called groupthink, which is your momentum is going over here, and everyone's in the group, and you don't want to stick out as a city alderperson or mayor or whatever. And so you just go with the consensus of the group. Oh, this is a terrible situation. Okay. It is, I understand. I understand how dire it is when thousands and thousands of dollars newly every year go on. Okay. But just to reiterate, there is another option. Okay. Come to me in person if you want to take another step.
Thank you. Any other comments? Great, moving along. Approval of the certificate of highway mileage for VTrans.
Yeah, so every year we have to certify if we took in roads into the city or created roads as part of the city for VTrans for their reimbursement that they provide the city. So basically, and I have the form here, I think I submitted it in your packets. Nothing's changed over the last year. We're just certifying to that.
Are we required to sign the form as the body?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to circulate one of those?
Yeah. It's at the bottom there.
Okay. So we'll send that around. There were no changes, correct? Yes,
No
you
changes.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
So we can move on to item D, which is the appointment of Alderman Austin to the Addison County Economic Development Corporation.
I'll make said motion.
There is a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, thank you, David.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Item E, do we have this form handy? Thank you very much. Item E is the recommendation for the appointment of City Manager Hofman to become our newest health officer.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Were you
carries.
a health officer in Guyton?
No,
No?
I was a code officer once, so
And you just need,
kind of close.
Yep.
Yeah, just you.
Form is signed.
Thank you.
Great. Item F, appointment of City Manager Hofman to Delinquent Tax Collector.
I'll make said motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Sorry,
Aye.
yes, all right, there's one discussion, sorry. Could a citizen hold that office? Would it need to be a formalized public servant as a tax collector?
No.
Delinquent tax collector?
Some towns' charters allow a citizen to be, and they get a percentage of the amount collected, but I
Yeah.
think our charter, since we're a city, I don't know if that's an option or not.
I don't know that it's an option.
And
And I don't know that the charter is actually explicit about that.
I don't know
I remember
either.
reading that in our
Yeah.
reviews.
So on this note, I would be happy to work with people who are in financially challenging circumstances. I've been homeless myself. I've also been in a position of, a private investor. And so I've worked away. I was failed out of college and I ended up with no college degree and $10,000 in debt, for example, like that. And I can overcome the shame. So I just again, I'm here for you, and I would serve in that capacity if you have too much on your plate, Manager Hofman, or whatever else. I don't know what kind of term we're talking about here, but.
It's a 1-year term.
Okay, so I'm happy to serve in that role if that's something that council is interested in.
Great.
We can look that up.
Now, didn't
Yep,
we
we can pursue
just
that.
revamped the collection procedures?
We have
with Matt
procedures now, correct?
that were
Right.
revised within the last year and a half.
We just adopted that process in November.
Payment plan.
Payment plans, correct. And I think at that time, Ray Walker, you actually did mention consulting with those who might be delinquent.
Absolutely, I think
Thank
any
you.
interpersonal contact, showing care in addition to, is a great idea.
Right.
Well, to that end, though, I don't know what our current charter said, but the proposed charter would be that one of the duties of the city manager is collector of taxes. So that would
Okay.
be specifically to,
That's the proposed charter.
yes,
Okay.
I'm not
Charter.
sure how it stands in the current one. I don't have that one in front of me.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Delinquent Tax Collector. And following with the appointment of City Manager Hofman to be our tree warden.
Also make said motion.
Motion is made
Second?
and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
You hope you feel important.
Three new jobs.
Yeah, 3 new jobs.
And none of them pay you any additional funds either.
If no one is actually opposed, I would like to leave item H after following the city manager's report and my report, and we'll kind of move forward that way. Is that agreeable to everyone?
Yes.
Great. So we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you. In your packets, I have a little bit of a different financial report that I put together. And it's a work in progress still. I'll be trying to make things very straightforward. This is how much revenue, this is how our expenses, and bottom line.
I find it's easier to read.
And yeah, as you can see on the right-hand side, I have a note column. Not many notes for right now because I'm still familiarizing myself. But as I go through any abnormalities in the budget, I'll notate, it's because of X, Y, and Z, those types of things. And still a work in progress. So do you have any questions, anybody?
I'm curious, this obviously was your first time through, but as you were building these reports, did anything come...
I'm still...
Did anything like go...
Well, yes,
flash
but
at you?
yes, but no, because I'm still learning. I mean, we have we have a bunch of funds like the Ray Davidson Fund and the Water Tower Fund. They're all just kind of lumped in the line items, and I have to understand the inner workings of how those are working pretty much. But yeah, nothing really jumps out other than what's this, and I have to figure out what's going on for myself.
Great.
So, but yeah, as things progress, anything that does jump out, that I think would jump out at you guys, I'll notate on the right-hand column.
I helped write the Water Tower Fund policy, so if you want to talk about that anytime, just let me know.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to go over that and the watershed fund and those types of things. So that's that, and I apologize. I'll have a more detailed analysis hopefully at the next meeting or the meeting after. And then my other item, the biosolids removal at the treatment plant. We've been putting away $40,000 a year for this. This is to lower one of the lagoons and remove the sludge from the bottom of it. So it's about time to do that for, I think it's Lagoon 1. Lagoon 2 was done recently. And I chatted with Rick about this, our treatment plant operator, and And he has some experience from last time they did it on one of the lagoons, and he's gonna take a different route. Last time they had like a manure mover machine, and it was it wasn't the right way to go about it. So now, this proposal that was in your packets is for a centrifuge type machine that'll spin the material to drain the liquid, so, it seems like Rick's got it down. Yeah.
We used to take the sludge and spread it on state-owned lands up behind the Job Corps Center, which I think is no longer available to us.
Yeah.
So this dries it, and basically you have a biosolid that you just dispose of. Is that what this? Okay.
To a landfill.
That's what I thought.
And
Okay.
and Rick said that when we did do that option, when we took it and we put it over land, even though it's like, it sounds good, but you have to get like approvals from this person, this person, this person, this person. So it's just easier to just bring it to a landfill at the end of the day.
Okay.
So we've discussed, and obviously we won't be doing that like tomorrow. I mean, we'll be doing that in the spring when it warms up, and I just wanted to fill you guys in that we have a quote on that.
I can't put my fingers on the quote. I saw the number, but could you just 169?
Yes.
And we do have those funds.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, we have. That's somewhere in my. We have $195,000 in the
Great.
capital fund specifically for that.
Great.
That's good.
Yes. Yeah, the money is there, and we'll continue to put away money.
Because it won't get any cheaper to do this, probably.
No, I'm sure it won't.
Unfortunately.
I do like the new process, though.
What's that?
Leaving as a biosoliid.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, because you have to when you do drain the fluid, there's curtains that separate the lagoons. You have to pull down the curtain. Rick said that when the curtain was lowered, the folds in between the curtain had sludge in between them, and then also like the machine that they got had to like move the sludge from one section over and under the curtain to dry as the method to dry it out, and it was just a mess. So this centrifuge thing so that's why I'm saying Rick has an understanding of how to do it better, and so it's good.
Great.
Excellent. Anything else that you wanted to report on this evening?
No, I just hello everyone, and yeah, I probably should have started with that, and just happy to be here, learning a lot, and my reports will get better, I promise.
Did anyone have any questions for Daniel?
No, I thought he did a lot for
Yeah.
a short time he's been here.
Hasn't even been 2 weeks.
A lot going on the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a
that's-
busy couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll move ahead to the mayor's report, which is also speaks to the busy couple of weeks. As everyone, I think, here is aware, our assistant clerk, Melissa Wright, has given her notice, and she will be leaving, I believe, a week from Friday. And we all know that our city clerk, Joan Devine, is retiring at the end of February, and we're all anxious about what that will mean for us. And I think that it's sort of been a nice trial by fire for Daniel to jump in and help us coordinate the search for a new clerk. And Daniel has been joined by myself and Alderman Benton and Alderman Koenig, and Joan has participated, and Abby Farrar, our accounts payable clerk, has also participated. We've interviewed 3 candidates, and I believe that we have a recommendation to the full council for a person that Daniel will be communicating with in the next couple of days. And I'm hopeful that at the next meeting we can present that person to the full council. You can meet with that person at that time, and I would love for us to move forward with an offer of appointment to snag this person before we waste too much time, and go forward. So there'll be an update for everyone before the next meeting, but I think we're ready to go, and we're pretty excited about it. And thank you both for participating, and Joan, thanks for your help too. All righty. Anything else before we move on to item H? Item H is a personnel matter that should be discussed in executive session. It's of a sensitive nature, And I would be looking for a motion to move into this executive session pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313. Do we have said motion? No motion. Therefore, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I think we should address it. I don't think we need to address it in executive session because I'm not really even sure what it is. I'm not sure that it is an employment matter. I don't know. So those are my thoughts. I don't know what it is, but I do know that that we received communication from an individual and it's dragged on for nearly a month now, and that's entirely unacceptable. And it should not go any further than this evening. We've had plenty of opportunity to deal with this between the time that we received that communication on the 16th. It's nearly a month later. Hasn't been dealt with, needs to get dealt with. We need to move on.
I agree, we need to do something tonight.
I would maintain that I would prefer we go into an executive session to discuss this.
I don't know as we can, because I don't know that it is an employment-related matter. I mean, we just heard people talk about transparency.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be, I mean, I don't see why. I mean, I'm willing to listen to an argument as to why it should occur in executive session. I'm not an attorney. I don't think that it meets the requirements of the statute. And it's not a, when we are discussing a personnel matter or sale of a capital asset or anything that is able to be discussed in executive session, the statute does not require it to be discussed in executive session.
Well, let's put this way, and I'll just state my position, and that is, I'm not willing to be the person that brings this item before the council. So if someone would like to bring the item before the council, I will certainly not prevent anyone from doing so.
I have no problem with bringing it before the council. I mean, I don't see as to why it has to be a major issue, but it's not going to get any better with time.
Let me just say this, I don't believe we need to name names, just address the issue.
Okay.
I don't think there's any reason to bring people's names into this publicly. I just think that we have to understand, all of us, not anyone in particular, what our job is as mayor, deputy mayor, alderman, whatever the position is you are, in relationship to other employees of the city. You know, we are only in a position when we are in session. And when someone takes a position or demands some requirement of an employee of the city, they're out of line doing that.
I agree with you. However, I would also say, and I think I've mentioned this to you, is that we are all free to interact with our employees. And I wish we had more of that. What I think we have to be very clear about as we do that as members of this council is that when we are interacting with them, we're interacting with them on our own behalf, not on the behalf of the council. That's where I am on that.
I think that I would agree. I would agree, and I certainly don't want to preclude anybody, including myself, from doing that, because we all wear a bunch of different hats. But I think that we need to, I think that we need to do a few different things. But one of the things that I think that we need to do, and I think we all understand, that the employee-employer relationship is between staff and department heads and our city manager. He's the employer, you know. We're the board of directors, but the employee-employer relationship is between the city manager and the employee, period, the end, which is why I'm not sure what this is. I don't know.
I think what this is one person expressing an opinion that they held. I think that's what this, personally, that's what this is.
I would agree. I know what that is. I'm just saying from a technical perspective, I don't know. And I would agree. I don't believe it is an employer-employee relationship when there's a communication from an individual member of a body to a staff member, because that relationship does not exist. The only employer-employer relationship, like I just said, is between staff members and the city manager.
So I would like to propose a potential resolution to this issue.
Okay.
And I think what you're driving at, David, is that the bigger issue is what's at issue here, not necessarily one particular occurrence. And I think that is, and this was a conversation that I actually had with the former city manager, and that is, when I want to speak with one of your employees, you should know.
Absolutely.
And that was something that I followed with the former city manager. What happened in this particular instance is that we were sort of in betwixt and in between. So I think that we have to recognize that it was an awkward time for us, but that moving forward, if we're going to have a conversation with one of the city's employees, we should first speak with their employer.
I'd agree.
I think it's fine.
I'd agree, but at the issue isn't with the communication. The issue is relative to just making it very, very clear, as I think we've done, what exactly it is, because I'm not sure how it was taken. I think it's fine for any of us on an individual basis to say whatever we want, you know, and that may have been the situation. I don't know, you know, but all I know is that we received a letter from a city employee that was addressed to the city manager, it was addressed to the mayor, and it was addressed to us individually, and we didn't do anything with it for a month, and that's not acceptable.
Maybe we did not as a group do nothing with it, but I would say that I would refute that nothing has been done with it.
What has been done?
I've had conversations with the employee.
Okay. Can you share with us what those were?
Basically, what I just said, that is that future conversations with employees should first go through the city manager. And I also said that I felt that there was a personal opinion expressed, that I certainly thought that this individual had the right to express. However, I wish that it might have taken place perhaps in person or between those two parties.
And do you feel that there's a resolution to that at this point?
I can't answer that.
Understood. Understood.
Sure, Bob.
Real quick one. Back to visibility, transparency. How were these conversations documented? What form and format? They should be sequestered somewhere. They should be confidential. It's not for everyone's eyes only.
Right.
But that's a decision that needs to be made up front.
Right.
But the documentation needs to be clear.
Yep.
Regardless of who has access to it, it has to be clearly documented that this is either for general dispersal or confidential or at some level of priority.
I absolutely agree. And what I would also then propose is I will have another conversation with the employee that we will appropriately document, and it will be included in the employee file.
That covers your 6 and it covers the cities too.
Whoa, wait, let's back up. What do you mean, the employee didn't do anything?
No, note of our conversation. Just the note that we've had a conversation about what's occurring.
From a technical perspective, the communication from that individual to any of us is public record. It's public record. If you
Now it is because of the way
well,
it's handled.
no, it was public record when it was sent, because our email, I mean, we've already been through this in a national level.
It's all
I mean,
city business.
if anybody made a records request, those emails are public record.
Because of the way it was transmitted initially. It didn't have the proper sequestering because it wasn't looked at and considered as a potentially confidential issue, in which case it would have gone in a slightly different direction and handled by a slightly different group of people. But because it got out there, whatever it is, it got out there, it is city business, it is public, it's in the public record, sure. That's, guess what, surprise.
So I'm asking you, David and Lit, what would you propose that we do?
I think that I think that we owe I think that we have to. I mean, I have no problem with divulging what it's about. I mean, I would respect everyone else's opinion, and if you don't want me to do that, I'm fine with not doing it. But I think that the situation that we have is we have a communication that was addressed to us, asking us to do something. We haven't done anything, and I don't know what it is that we're going to do. But let me look at the thing. I mean, it's.
Does anyone else want to chime in?
It seems to me like this was a communication between an individual on this board with an employee, and that employee is looking for a group response rather than an individual response.
That's what I thought.
That's how I read it. I do believe that this was a communication between an individual and that employee, and that, we could decide as a group to, for me, if there's been a conversation between the mayor and the employee, and there's been correspondence between the two individuals with concerns, is this a council matter? I'm not convinced necessarily it is.
I think it is. I mean, I've got a letter that's addressed specifically to.
Unfortunately, I think they brought us into this.
I've got a letter that's addressed to each one of us, and it says, I hope and expect the city council will address actions in an appropriate manner.
So, can I ask you a question before we
absolutely.
So just quickly, the question. Can the council express its will in this matter by a reiteration of what we've discussed today, which is that as this was originally an employee-employer relationship, that it is the will of the council to refer that matter to the relationship of employee to city manager? Is that an option for us?
It is, but I don't believe that addresses. I don't believe that it addresses the issue.
So
it's one step.
Okay.
It's one step.
Well, it's a request for a response in an action, but that doesn't mean we have to respond to it.
I understand that, but I mean, if you have, I mean, in.
Yeah, I think that's because there's people the initial. I feel like we're getting very meta about this. The initial communication, in my opinion, you could take it two ways, and this person took it one way.
Sure.
And now asking us to respond to that, I don't necessarily agree with the way that it was perceived. Yep. And so, I think that there's a lot of gray area. I completely agree with you, David. And to me, it's just it is an individual.
I guess I'm looking at it from my experience in the private sector, and if I had a situation like this to deal with, and I didn't deal with it. I'm, you know, and it's a different situation because we're not in the private sector, and we're all individuals, and but I think that we I think that we at least need to, and I appreciate the mayor, you know, stating that he's reached out to the individual, but that's not what they asked. They asked for a response from the council, and we're not doing
Perhaps
that.
we can say we will acknowledge it.
Yeah, maybe that's all we need to do.
I'm not sure that I'm not sure that is all that
I don't know
we
if
should do.
I don't think anyone. There's definitely not, in my opinion, a situation where everyone's going to be happy about.
Absolutely not.
Right, and so I do think that there's a matter of we need to make sure. I don't think that we just because we've been asked to respond in a way, we get to choose how we respond to your point. We
Absolutely.
could just acknowledge it. We could craft a response on behalf of the council. We could refer the issue to, you know, if there's one thing that we need to do to put it to bed, we'd love to do that, because I agree, this is something that has dragged on. We shouldn't have to continue to go around in circles about this, and it's a distraction. It's a distraction.
It is a distraction, and I think that, and I'm not the individual that was involved, so I can't
I can
speak.
speak to half of it.
Okay.
I'll keep half of it. All right. I heard communication from the community that a specific individual, an employee within the city, was dissatisfied with this council's choice of city managers and was not happy at all. And I wrote to that person through email and said, I expect you to act in a professional and respectable manner, or I would expect you to resign. The person took that as my demanding a resignation, which is not what I meant. I meant, you got two choices. You can either act like this person is your boss now, or you should leave if you can't do that. Those are choices. It wasn't a demand of, you should resign right now and I demand that you do that. It was just, act as a professional or leave. And I was really annoyed that I was already hearing these things. It was right between our two city managers. There really wasn't a way to talk to the city manager, to work on it. And I didn't want this problem to be happening when we have a new person coming right into it and walking into this. So I just was trying to lay down the line. Don't do this.
Understood.
And if you need to do that, you should leave.
Understood.
That's where it was. That's where we are. The employee took it the other way, thought that I was demanding a resignation, which I don't think the letter says that, but I can see where it might be interpreted that way. And that's it. So that's where we are. I still don't have a problem with what I wrote.
So
I would like to say this. We have a new start at our meeting tonight. We have a wonderful manager that I think is going to be great to work with, understands our city, comes from a like town, and it's been discussed. We've got it out on the table. It's been discussed. Dan's talked to him, Jeff's talked to him, I've talked to him, you've talked to him, Mark's talked to him, maybe there's other people that've talked to him. And I just want to say, I think from today on forward, we need to remember what our position is, not make it more or less than what it is, and let's get back to running the city the way we're supposed to run the city. And I understand where Mark came from. It was frustrating there for when we didn't have a manager. Either way, we had a manager, but we didn't have a manager. And a lot of things, again, because we were choosing someone that people did not know, there were questions. The questions have been answered. The council was extremely happy with the answers. I look forward to moving on. I hope everybody else does. And I think we should just end this conversation, and I will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'm going to say one more thing. Because I think that Mark has, now that Mark has gotten it out there, I think out of fairness to everybody involved, including Mark, and including the public, that we ought to talk about who it was addressed to, and it was addressed to the chief of police. And I understand Mark's position, but the issue is how it was taken by that individual. And I think that what we needed to do, we've done, which is clearly establish that the employer-employee relationship resides solely between the employee and the city manager, period, the end. That doesn't preclude Mark or me or Bill or any of us from communicating in a very direct manner with an individual. Because we shouldn't, we don't want to, I mean, if we get to the point where we're doing that, we're in real trouble.
Well, we do it as a citizen.
We do, and understood, and Mark has stated that that's what he was doing, and that's fine. But I think that the other thing is and I will divulge this, that I was on the hiring committee, and I made the recommendation that I'm always looking to save money, and I made the recommendation. I said maybe we could get our police department to do the background check. Jeff explained that no, it's better to go with an outside entity, and I agreed. And I communicated to Chief. I said, Chief, just FYI, I mentioned that it might not be a bad idea to try to save a dime here. Chief agreed with Jeff. He said, no, I don't want to go near that. This guy's going to be my boss. And so what Chief did was he only attempted to get things out in the open, which he did. Didn't do anything wrong. You know, whatever Mark heard in the community, Mark heard. But I think that we're absolutely right. I mean, we've got to move on. I mean, you know, we spend a lot of money on our police department. I think that everybody who can agree that that's the case. We also have one of the finest police departments in the state. And right now, their morale over there is rock bottom. And I think that getting this out in the open is a step in the right direction to repairing the relationship. And I'd agree with Lynn. I think that we move forward. Dan is new. I'd like to apologize to Dan for us having to deal with this at his first meeting. It didn't have to be that way. We could have dealt with it previously.
I'll second Lynn's motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.